Weekender. This week we've travelled to the city of Pune to meet a man who is often known as the unconventional CEO. He's someone who's not afraid of thinking contrarian, and he has grown his company from 8,000 to 80,000 crores market cap over the last decade. Let's go and meet him. Today we have with us the MD of Bajaj Auto, Rajiv Bajaj. Hi Rajiv, thank you for joining us on the Weekender show.
Thank you for that introduction.
Well, I forgot to mention that apart from bikes, one of your biggest passions is yoga and homeopathy. Not too many people know about homeopathy, but of course yoga is well documented. You were with us last year as well on Yoga Day. How your introduction was to yoga? Were you always fit as a kid, or did you find out later in life that fitness is the way to go?
Actually, to be honest, I tell people that motorcycles is my hobby. My real passion, preoccupation and interest is homeopathy and yoga. So motorcycle is secondary. My father says it's because I was born twisted. So I started out with yoga in 2005, rather late because I was almost 40 by that time. And it happened just by chance. In fact, it happened because my wife suffers from rheumatoid arthritis. And we thought yoga was a great solution for that. And we are very fortunate that we are in Pune, which is home to Guruji BKS Iyenger and his institute. And we requested the institute to send us a yoga teacher, primarily for her. And you know, Guruji is known as a very tough guru, and Iyenger Yoga is not for the faint-hearted.
It is not.
So my teacher Amit, who I met as a result of this effort, after the very first class he conducted, my wife said she would have nothing to do with it because she did not subscribe to this no pain, no gain theory. But I just took to it like a natural. It resonated very deeply with me.
Rajiv, we go through a lot of stresses, right? I mean, for us, we have these back-breaking jobs where we sit from 7 in the morning to 5 in the evening. But the stress that you face is of a different level because you're competing with some of the biggest companies in the country. What has yoga taught you that you could sort of use in your job and in your business over the last many years?
Sonia, it's like this. I once asked Guruji, Guruji, what is yoga? You know, everybody goes and asks him that, so even I asked him that. And he told me in one word, yoga is alignment. And then he went on to tell me, he said, it's the same in your business. You have to align one person with the other, one department with the other, otherwise you have bureaucracy, you have politics. You have to align your company with your suppliers and dealers. You have to align your entire supply chain with one purpose in the marketplace. You must have a clear purpose. What are you trying to achieve? Where are you trying to go? And is everybody in one voice and one effort aligned to that? So he said yoga is also alignment, management is also alignment. And I found that this is absolutely true. If everybody is aligned, there is no stress. The stress is there in the mind or the body or in the organization or its employees when there is a misalignment.
True.
And how you find that misalignment and how you correct it, that's a wonderful process.
You know, I also know that you are a big follower of Jack Trout, who's the marketing guru. And once I read something that he wrote about you where he said you're like the Steve Jobs of motorcycles, where, you know, you not only have come up with some amazing brands that have lasted for decades, but you also think contrarian, whether it's, you know, getting out of the scooter business and not coming back despite the scooter business growing so well. As far as branding and marketing is concerned, anything that yoga has taught you that has given you a creative or a different way of thinking? I'm trying to understand where your contrarian thoughts come from.
I don't know why Mr. Trout said what he said. Maybe because I dress like Steve Jobs. But you know, growing up in college, I noticed, as most people did, that there were two motorcycles that were very successful. There was the Hero Honda that was all about mileage, and there was the Yamaha RX100 that was all about power. And that was my first marketing lesson, that markets exist at the extremes. So my contrarian thinking, I would say, came from this observation in college and from reading Mr. Trout's works and then discussing with him and understanding that by being the jack of all trades, by being in a mushy muddle, as someone said, the true enemy of man is generalization. So to make a product that appeals to everyone and therefore doesn't stand out for anyone, you are not going to create brands, you're only going to create commodities. But when you stretch the envelope and find the extremes and catch the early adopters, that is when you are likely to create new markets, which is very rewarding. But now coming back to your question about the analogy with yoga, in a way, Guruji has taught us that when you do an asana, what do? A, you take a certain position on the mat. B, you find your center of gravity in that position, such that you are most relaxed. In your mind, in your breath, in your body, you are completely relaxed. You have no sense of instability, stress or concern.
Distraction.
And any distraction. And then from that stable position, you can stretch out, whether it's an arm or a leg or, bend backwards, forwards, whatever it is you do. But he said, be sure never to leave that center. Because if you lose the center, you lose your balance. And that's the end of the asana. And then you can hurt yourself. I think it's the same in business. That when you as a company find your center in different brands, Pulsar represents a certain center for us in one segment. Platina represents in another. The three-wheeler is a different one. KTM is a different one. I would say these are like our business asanas. They are different positions we have taken in the marketplace, which appeals to some people and they buy into it. Now, everybody wants to grow the business from there. I want Pulsar to be a 5,000 crore brand. I may want the three-wheeler to be a 3,000 crore brand. So now I am thinking of expanding. But I must not leave my center. It's a mistake we made with the Discover. We stretched too far.
Diluted the brand a bit.
We left the center of Discover and we diluted it. So the desire for growth is a very legitimate desire. It's like wanting to stretch and expand in yoga. But when growth crosses the line to greed, this is when things go wrong.
So when you say growth, for a company like Bajaj Auto, now in the last 6 to 8 months, you've brilliantly filled a lot of the product gaps, whether it's the CT100, the Platina, the Avenger, the new V. There's so much that you're offering the common man. But now if you have to grow from an 80,000 crore market cap to say a 1,50,000 crore market cap, what is your vision? How do you think you can grow?
At least on paper, as most things are, it's I would say very obvious or very logical. I lay it out in 3 phases. The first phase is the immediate opportunities. I mean, today we have now brought ourselves up, as you say, in the last 1 year to a nice 20% domestic market share. But we are still missing the middle of the market where we have just launched the V. The V competes in a space of about 600,000 motorcycles. And today, between our Discover and the V, we are, despite our recent success, we are doing only 40,000 there. 40,000 versus an opportunity of 600,000. It's a share of only 7%. In the rest of the industry, we have a share of 40%. So the potential for a V or a Discover or maybe yet another brand to grow and take Bajaj from 40,000 to 100,000, 200,000, I think is a very real opportunity. Now it is up to our imagination and the effort we put into it, how we exploit this opportunity. So I think this is one big opportunity. Equally, there's been this commendable performance by Siddharth and team Eicher in the, I would say, upper sports segment with 50,000 Royal Enfields there, And today in the sports...
That's become a cult in itself, the Royal Enfield.
I guess it always was, but I think he embellished it so well that, it realized its true potential. Now, the sports segment is a place where we have 35% share. They are not very far behind at 25%. And I think we have to ask ourselves what we're going to do about that. And hopefully, as soon as next month, we have an answer in terms of a product that we will put in there. True to what I just said earlier, if Royal Enfield represents one extreme of, I would say, if I have to be unkind to Siddharth, a old, outdated, so-called classic-looking retro motorcycle
is back in form.
So we are going to put out a really snazzy, high-tech, fast, big, son-of-a-gun motorcycle at the other end. So let's see what happens,
I realize that you're learning a lot from Siddharth's success in the Royal Enfield. What is the biggest learning, the biggest takeaway from the success of the Bullet?
I have been fortunate to have good friends like Siddharth, Aditya Ghosh at Indigo, I would say Vinod Dasari at Leyland, etc. And I would believe that we have one thing in common, that we believe that less is more. I mean, everybody is asking me, why don't you make scooters? But look at Siddharth, he doesn't even make motorcycles. He makes just one motorcycle, you know, in one niche of the market, but look at his success. A 50,000 crore market cap, a bottom line which is close to 400 crores a quarter, is just phenomenal. And he is very clear that, you know, this is who he is, this is his position, this is his asana, and he's always going to do that. I think it's the same for Vinod, it's the same for Aditya. And I think that is what we have in common. So we meet often, we share a lot of ideas, we learn from each other, we speak at each other's companies. Siddharth has often seen my new motorcycles even before my own board has seen it. You know, so there are no secrets in that sense. So
okay,
we have
so
to be careful.
we are allowed only one last question on business, because then we have to move to yoga.
Move to yoga,
tilt.
wonderful.
But my last question to you, you know, you guys sell 2 lakh units a month.
Yeah.
Hero sells 4 lakh units a month, so they currently sell double.
Yeah.
In how many years do you think it will take for you to get there?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm Mr. Trout's student, and he's always taught me that's the wrong question to respond to, you know. Wall Street and Dalal Street will put you out on the street. So from my point of view, in fact, Hero is now more or less at about 450,000 bikes a month. And I'm looking at global volumes because, you know, when we decide as a company to narrow our focus in terms of products, that okay, we're just a motorcycle company essentially, in terms of mass market presence, then for us it becomes very important to be present in global markets to be able to expand our business. So on a global basis, I would say Bajaj is a little over 300,000 motorcycles a month. Hero is at 400,000 plus. Roughly 150,000 motorcycles separate us. There is no doubt that, you know, the number game is an important game. But the bottom line game is also important, the technology game is important, the global presence game is important, the market cap game is important. So I say to my father sometimes, you know, you want to be number one. You're number one in bottom line, you're number one in market cap, you're number one in global presence.
You're only not number one in volume.
So ठीक है यार, nobody is perfect, वो भी हो जाएगा.
And what's the biggest learning that you've had from your father? I know he's another person who's influenced you after Jack Trout.
You know, I asked him very soon after I joined the company. I never asked him, what would you like me to do? Because I was very sure I will do what I want to do. So there's no point asking him. But I did ask him what he wanted for Bajaj. You know? So he told me his father told him that do what you think best, but be the best in what you do. So it was a very simple statement, but it was profound as well. So I asked him, what do you mean by be the best? You know? So he's thought about it and he said, I think to be the best means we have to be world class. That was a time when Bajaj was not exporting anything. In fact, till about 10, 12 years back, our exports were zero. You know, we were a very India-centric company, present in multiple segments. We made the little Sunny, the M80 moped, the Kawasaki motorcycle, our own scooter, somebody else's three-wheelers. And, you know, this buffet or bouquet we offered to this country. But we were never able to export, you know. And he said to me, you know, my ambition or my desire is that we must be a global company, we must be present everywhere, etc. And I thought long and hard about it, and what I found upon reflection was this. Every company that has ultimately made it globally has had to narrow its product focus, specialize in one thing, whether it's a McDonald's burger or whether it's an iPhone. You know, you do one thing, you do it really well, you put every man, minute and rupee behind it. That's what gives you the chance. You know, and that's what gives you then the chance, because otherwise you have so much competition. So doing many things for many markets never going to work. So today when he berates me for having done away with the moped and the scooter and this and that, so I tell him, now this is what you asked of me. You wanted us to go global. Today we are exporting to the US, to Europe, to Japan through KTM, in the KTM brand. We are market leaders all over Africa. We are absolute market leaders in the subcontinent. We are present in a lot of the LATAM countries. So, you know, this is what you wanted. Now don't complain about it.
Okay, so the rebel child did well. Rajiv, you know, you were telling us before the break how yoga is all about alignment. Now tell us a little bit about one or two asanas which are your favorites, where you've learnt a lot and you could imbibe it in your business.
You see, Sonia was just saying, or I was proposing that, you know, when one creates markets, one should think in terms of the extremes of a segment, because that's where you find the new fruit, so to speak, when you go out on the limb. In the same way, Guruji helped me to understand that even in yoga, there is the pose and the counter pose, you know. And it's not just the doing a pose or asana that gives you the benefit. It's the counter pose of that which helps you to relax, that actually works on the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what gives you the real benefit of yoga. So after you do some back bends, you would do some forward bends, for example. So in that sense, I would say two very interesting asanas, which are often referred to as the king and queen of asanas, are Sirsasana or the headstand and Sarvangasana or the shoulder stand. And in doing this asana, as we see or we will see, that it is important, to occupy your position in a very stable form, because you're standing on your neck, for example, and this is the most delicate part of the spine. And if you lose that, you lose everything. So Sirsasana is not something to be just taken lightly or casually. At the same time, it's a very, very rewarding experience when one finds one's center in it.
And the balance that you achieve after.
The lightness you feel after that, I mean, when I come, I'm generally not a very pleasant person, so to speak. But when I come out of...
Don't be modest now.
No, I'm being very honest. But when I come out of 10 minutes of Sirsasana, I am so much at peace with myself that anybody can ask anything of me that time. I feel I cannot say no. It is
so that's when the salary hikes are asked.
So that's when they should time it. Huh? So now you're giving my people ideas. So this is Sirsasana. At the same time, Sirsasana is a asana that builds a lot of energy. So on a cold day or when you're feeling a little low or down, etc., you need some extra energy. Few minutes of Sirsasana, little bit of twisting, etc. in it. Wonderful experience. So I took to Sirsasana very early. Sarvangasana is the opposite almost. It's the more cooling, relaxing, pacifying, reassuring asana.
So apart from yoga, is there anything else that charges your batteries? I mean, I know that you do go for hikes and you like trekking, etc. Anything else?
I love walking in the mountains, especially in Switzerland, etc. That I do. But as much, if not more than yoga, what I have learned from, what I have enormously benefited from, and what I believe I am able to apply in life and in work is homeopathy. The principles of homeopathy, the science behind it is so deep, and I have been very fortunate to have met some of the best homeopaths in the world, like Dr. Rajan Sankaran, Dr. Batra, both based out of Mumbai, and many others in fact. And so I have spent a lot of time on that. Apart from that, of course, marketing itself is of great interest to me. And when you meet someone like Jack Trout, so I am blessed.
So what is the biggest lesson that Jack Trout has taught you?
I mean, for Jack Trout's strategy is differentiation. I mean, he's very clear. He's always told me, you can never sell. You have to supply a reason to buy. Sonia, I'll tell you this. I mean, we are standing here at Prana. We have a Bajaj showroom here, a Kawasaki showroom, a KTM showroom. And I tell my people, the most important person in the company is neither the chairman nor the watchman. It's the salesman in the showroom.
Okay, that's one great learning for all of us. Hi guys, welcome back. Since it's yoga day, Rajiv and me have decided to get onto our yoga mats and show you guys some very easy asanas for all the corporate junkies out there that have long working hours. And Rajiv, since you're the yogi, you start.
Sonia, I think a typical corporate day, involves so much sitting, standing, several hours. So one of the best asanas to demonstrate today, I think, is this one, the Vajrasana. And it's very deceptive, but people watching us, I mean, if they were to try this, to just sit back on their legs, which is not easy in the beginning, but it hurts your knees, it hurts your metatarsals, but eventually you get comfortable. And you have to learn to keep your toes together, your heels apart, and rest your sitting bones in between that. And you would find immediately the effect on the body starting from the diaphragm is such that there is a easing of the physical fatigue and stress in this. And then we can take it further by interlocking our fingers and stretching forward in this way to involve everything from the fingertips to the wrist, to the elbows, to the shoulders. All the time keeping the spine very straight, very erect, because as somebody said, you're only as old as your spine. So as long as your spine is strong and flexible, you're good. And you can intensify it a bit from there, taking it up. It is very important to breathe correctly with the movement.
So this can be done even while you're sitting on your chair? And
absolutely, anywhere. This is all the space you need. I do it on airline seats all the time. and people can do it in the local trains in Mumbai.
I'm sure a lot of people stare at you, but you don't care.
No, I care, I like it. And you breathe out, and that's how you engage your core. And then if you wish, you can follow it up with a very gentle and simple stretch, first to one side. So whenever you and Lata want to look at each other or away from each other, twist in one direction or the other.
What is the one biggest learning that you've got from yoga that you imbibe on a daily basis?
I learned a very important lesson, and therefore important technique once, that it is very important, if you want to be stable in the asana, to have your vision or your sight fixed at one place. And you would find that if your sight wavers, then your mind wavers, and in the mind wavers, the body wavers.
And then you can't do the asana properly.
And then you can't do it, you're unstable. And once I was doing it out in the open, and then I discovered this, that if I were to fix my sight at something that's too close to me, that doesn't help me to be stable. And if I look at a hilltop or a cloud far away, that also doesn't help me to maintain my position. So I discovered that actually when I find a middle path, something that's at a reasonable distance, not too close, not too far, and fix my sight on that, that is when I feel completely stable. And I would say it's the same in business. If you're just trying to achieve something for the next quarter, I think the organization and its performance will not be stable. If we only keep talking about 5 years hence, 10 years hence, maybe there's a hint here for our government, that's no good either. I think we need medium-term goals, not too short-term, not too fuzzy and long-term.
And unachievable.
Fix our sight on that. That gives us stability, and then we work towards that. So that would be an interesting analogy, I would say.
Okay, on that very, very enlightening note, Rajiv Bajaj, thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.